Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And today I am on my own and would love if anybody would want to jump in the comments. Last week was Thanksgiving here in America, and I went live. I think it was on Thanksgiving or maybe it was the day before, and we had a great conversation. I think it was actually on Thanksgiving Day because there were a lot of people engaged in the conversation, which was really fun. And that got me thinking about some things that I want to do differently in 2025, including resurrecting the idea of what we called at the time the Orange Chair Dialogues, which was a regularly scheduled opportunity for people to just kind of pop in and have conversations about a specific topic. Or in some cases, it was just an opportunity to connect. So back in 2020, when everybody was kind of locked up, I created this thing called the Orange Chair Dialogues. A lot more information I can give you for why it was called that. But I had guests, and they were on kind of like a talk show format using StreamYard. And so on Tuesdays, we had the Orange Chair Dialogues with the topic and a guest. And then on Thursdays, we had the drop in dialogue, which was similar, but didn't really have any kind of theme. It was just kind of like these have been lately for me in the podcast, kind of riffing on what I'm thinking about. And then people would drop in and we'd have conversations together in a virtual format. So I've been thinking about that, and I am going to create something called Purple Dialogue in 2025, which will probably have that kind of feel. And the idea behind Purple Dialogues is that we can come together for things that create the best of two sides. In this case, it would have been political dialogue, but the red and the blue in America, the political sides create purple when they come together. And it doesn't have to be only political conversations. It can be anything which has two or more distinct perspectives. And what would happen if we could combine the best of all of the perspectives into one space? It kind of reminds me of when I was studying Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. And she had this analogy that she called the beach ball conversations. Beach ball, I think it was, yeah, beach ball conversations. And I'm reaching into my drawer. If you're watching on the video, I have a visual of this actually. And the beach ball analogy or a metaphor is like a perspective or a point of view. And we each have our own. We have our own perception of the way we see things because we've been conditioned a certain way by the way we were raised, the part of the world we were raised in. I mean, a lot of things impact our perception of things. That's our point of view, our way of seeing the world. And they talked about in the book this being like a beach ball. Somebody has a red perspective, somebody has a blue perspective, somebody has a purple, whatever it might be. And so if we can get to the point where all of those perspectives are equally valued because they come from our own individual experiences, and it doesn't necessarily mean that each of those colors is better than the other. It means that they all come together in this beach ball, which makes it very colorful and very interesting. And they're in the light spectrum, light colors. There are certain vibrations and frequencies to the colors, which makes them visible. I don't know a whole lot about color spectrum science, but I know that in the rainbow, when you see a rainbow, it goes red, orange, what is it, Roy G. Biv? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And that has something to do with the way the colors are on the spectrum anyway. And so each of those colors is equally valuable. One's not better than the other. It's just that we see them at different hues, I suppose, because of the science. And when all of those colors come together on a light spectrum, they create the color white. All colors in light create white. All colors in paint or something like paint create black. So when all the colors come together, they create another color. And in this analogy, the beach ball, the white spot would be the spot where all the colors come together in light spectrum. And so, if we could create dialogues and conversations that bring us all together, we could actually create something different than any of us would possibly know on our own. There's a big if in that, though. If we are willing to suspend the assumptions we had before we came together, then the possibility exists for something greater than any of us could do on our own. It's the definition of synergy is better together, basically. The combination of all of us creates something more than any one of us could create on our own. And I have that dream, I guess, vision of having conversations like that and learning how to have those kinds of conversations by learning how to listen, learning how to elicit conversation and dialogue without projecting my own bias and my own point of view. It's a skill that we can develop and get better at. And part of that is listening, which, golly, we don't have a lot of experience learning active listening skills. At least I didn't when I first started into the world of personal development. I didn't know how to listen. I didn't have that as a skill at the time. I've learned over the years in my coaching certifications and just taking some of this on that this is a skill you can get better at if you practice it. And listening to me is one of the key elements to creating that new, in this case, new color that would come together when different points of view are present. And in this case, we would need to be present in the agreement that we're willing to give up our, let's just say red or our blue to create purple. And that's a big if we are willing to do that. And I think until we have practice with that, until we recognize that, I don't think that would even occur to us that there could be something different created. So today I've titled this talk. What did I title it? Let me just look at what I called it. What do you really want? What do you really want? And it's funny to me how at Christmas, now we're coming up on Christmas, and kids we ask them all the time, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And kids are pretty good at that. I want a new toy, or I want to go to Disneyland, or what do you want? They know. And as we get older, it feels like, not always, but it feels like adults get less and less sure about what that is. What do you really, truly want? And I would maybe say it in a different way. What do you really, truly desire? And the word desire is pretty important here because if you break down the word, to sire, birth, to birth. What do you truly desire in a way that it can be born through you, for you, with you, whatever. And some of these are pretty existential questions and can be kind of deep. And I wonder if we've gotten out of practice having dialogues about deep conversations because it's just easier to take your position and stand on your color and say, well, the rest of the world needs to shift around me. So asking people, what do you really want in the context of a work challenge or a family dynamic or, those big kind of questions, it's kind of interesting when people say, well, I don't even really know what I want. Do you want the relationship to thrive? Do you want to come together on an issue, or do you want to be right? I know I've talked about this a lot on this podcast, the concept of being above or below the line. According to the book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, if you're above the line, you're conscious and you are open, curious, and committed to learning. If you're below the line, you're unconscious, closed, defensive, and committed to being right. And I wonder if we've become so protective of our own ideas because of the fear of what will happen if we lose that identity. I think that can happen to us when we get kind of set in our ways and we don't know, because we haven't practiced, what it means to expand our point of view, expand from red or from blue to create the possibility of purple. And in our purple dialogue vision, I guess, it's not really in existence right this minute. It's a website and it's got some information on it. There's more to it that I envision being born in 2025. And so watch for that. I actually put purpledialogue.com in my new book, Just Give a Shit. And I didn't have anything to send people to, so I had to create the website for it. So it's really in this squishy creation stage still. And what I know about myself is I love collaboration. And so I'm learning a lot about purple and the way purple exists as a metaphor, right? Coming together with somebody else's ideas or somebody else's way of seeing that will allow me to expand the way I see it. I know that's me. I know that's not everybody. So when I say, what do I want? I want relationships to be established and grown. I want the combination to expand. Not everybody does. And then when I ask clients, my coaching clients, sometimes I'll say, so when you notice this problem at your workplace, what do you want? And they'll say, well, what a dumb question. I want the person to do it right. Okay, so do you want to reprimand the person or do you want the relationship to expand? Those are very different outcomes. And we have to get really clear. No, just shut up and do your job. That would be one way. Okay, I got it. I want the process to run smoothly. Shut up and do your job. Okay. And that could provide you a short-term outcome. Shut up and do your job. Has that person shut up and do their job. But it doesn't really do much for expanding the relationship if it's said in that way. So I wonder if a deeper outcome or an objective could be, I want our workplace to operate more smoothly. Very different then. And so part of the challenge that we've had over probably our lifetimes is we haven't really known how to truly identify problems when they happen. We only see what happened. It's the story of this is going to sound weird, but it's the story of babies falling in the river. And people are seeing babies falling in the river and they're pulling the babies out of the river and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a baby in the river. We got to pull these babies out. And they're working so hard to make sure the babies don't drown that they're pulling the babies out of the river, but they never go upstream to find out why the babies are falling in the river in the first place. And I wonder if we've gotten so used to pulling the babies out of the river that we don't take the time to go, I wonder if there's something more to be seen here. And if we would do that, if we would take the time, because it does take time, and if we would start altering the way we see things, because if we're problem focused, we get really focused on the problem, right? And then we look for problems all the time. And we find our identity being a problem solver. And I'm really good at pulling babies out of the river. And yet there can be some resentment that happens when you pull the babies out of the river, when you're like, why am I always the one having to do this? Why doesn't somebody else do this? I can see where resentment could build up if you've created your identity as a problem solver. Because then everybody brings problems to you and it's just the way it is. They don't solve their own problems. They don't need to. You're there to solve them. And sort of in a way, we kind of condition people to come to us to solve the problems because that's how we get our identity. And maybe in some cases, we kind of get some appreciation when we solve the problems. So there's a deeper question here. What do I truly want? What do I truly want? Do I want to keep pulling the babies out of the river? Or do I want to move on to some other project? What do I truly want? And here's the kicker. If I get that I want something, I have to ask myself, am I just interested in that? Or am I actually committed to that? Because if we're interested in what we say we want, we'll do what it takes when it's easy. We'll take action toward that outcome when it's easy. Because wanting is very passive. I just want it to happen. What's missing is commitment, which is if I'm committed to it, I will do whatever it takes without violating the rights of others, even when the emotion I set it in wears off. And I'm noticing that there's probably a lack of commitment to what people say they want. Do they just want it, or are they committed to it? And if we can get to that place where, and I add, without violating the rights of others, and we find that I'm committed to this outcome, I'm committed to our workplace being a place where people feel safe to express their ideas and their challenges. I mean, if they feel safe to say, I don't like working with this person, or this is a problem for me, or whatever. If they feel safe in expressing what they're observing without feeling like they're going to be judged or reprimanded, that creates a very different culture than shut up and do your job. And so I know for me, what I truly desire is commitment for myself. I'm committed to doing things so that there can be connection and collaboration and more effective communication. I truly believe that when people connect, communicate, and collaborate, the world will change for the better. And so I'm here, I know I'm here to see if there's a way to bring those colors on the beach ball, or however the metaphor works, bring those colors together so that truly the best of each of them can come into the safe space and create something brand new. It's really the definition of a mastermind that Napoleon Hill coined when he did his research to write the book Think and Grow Rich. He defined the mastermind as people who come together in a spirit of harmony for a chief definite purpose. And when they do that, the best of all of them comes into the conversation, not because they brought it there, but because it was elicited, because it emerged from the safety of the conversation. And I have witnessed that happen a lot. It's so much fun to see what happens when people feel safe. And when somebody can say something like, I wonder if you're seeing this from a different perspective than the other side might. Maybe it's a mediator. Maybe that's what I love about this awareness. And maybe I love not having to take a side. I love being able to say, I am committed to the combination. And in that space, then, when people bring their frustrations in a coaching setting to me, I can say, so what does this mean for you, do you think? Because you wouldn't be frustrated or upset if there weren't something for you, right? I mean, we can probably agree on that at some point, unless we think everybody needs to see the world from the blue stripe or the yellow stripe or the red or whatever it might be. Well, why wouldn't everybody see this? It's obvious. When I think about that, sometimes it's funny because I used to believe that. Doesn't everybody think this? Doesn't everybody want this? No. People's perceptions are different, and that's kind of what makes the beach ball colorful. It's good. It's great. Please bring me your perspective. Please help me see this from a different place, because I can only see what my eyes see. I'm really interested in how you see it. And in that space of dialogue, that's what we call dialogue, suspending previous assumptions in order to learn from each other. It's so fun to see people's minds expand when they go, wow, I never thought about that before. It never occurred to me to think of it like that. It wouldn't, because you're in your own perception. You're in your own way of seeing it. How could it occur to you unless you're willing to suspend that perception for a time when we're together so that we can learn? And sometimes when you suspend a previous assumption and you are in the dialogue, you can have learned that, no, I really do still believe what I believed when I came in the door, but man, now I see it. I see it more expansively. I still choose what I choose, but in the moment, I see now why that's important to me. I see the why of it a lot differently than I did when I thought that was the only choice I had. So watch for some new things coming in 2025, including purpledialogue.com. You can go out there right now and take a look at it. It's not fleshed out much, and the vision I have for it is way bigger than what I could put on that one website. But it's going to compel me and pull me forward. Also, go out and get your own copy of my new book, Just Give a Shit. Dare to Care, Get Real, and Transform Your World. You can get it at Amazon, or you can get it from me in person. We'll have a book signing coming up here in Fargo. But don't wait. Just go out and get it from wherever you can, or ask me. I have copies too I can send to you. So thanks for being with me today. Let yourself ponder that question. What do you really want? And then ask yourself, do I want it, or am I committed to it? Because your action will tell which you are. If you want it, you'll do what it takes when it's easy. But if you're committed to it, you'll do what it takes without violating the rights of others, important distinction, even when the emotion you set it in wears off. Just observe yourself. See what occurs for you. And come back next week. We'll throw out another idea. And as always, go get real. That's what we do here. We get real. We dig in and we live our lives authentically. Radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. So thanks for being with me, and I'll see you next week. Bye.